Hello, welcome to the Learn English Lab. Today's podcast is Think in English About Your Goals.
Yeah, it is fantastic to be here. This is, it's a topic that sits right at this really interesting intersection of psychology, linguistics, and, well, personal development.
Yeah, it really does. And I mean, we are going to explore something today that could, I think, fundamentally change how you, our listener, approach your life and your learning.
Right, because we often hear people say, I want to achieve this or I want to get that promotion, and they grind, they work incredibly hard, they put in the hours.
Oh, for sure. They burn the midnight oil. But today, we're proposing a bit of a radical idea for this deep dive.
We really are. We're looking at the idea that achieving goals isn't just about the hard work you do externally. It is actually about the language you use internally to process those very goals.
That's the core premise right
Yes.
there. Like, what if the secret to landing that dream job or traveling the world or even just achieving fluency wasn't just about, studying grammar rules?
Right. Studying can only take you so far. What if the real secret was actually thinking in the target language?
It sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? Like you just think it and boom, it happens. It sounds a bit like magic.
It does sound a bit woo-woo at first glance, I'll admit.
But I know you, and you don't really do the whole magic thing. You are all about the science. So is this just some positive thinking trend, or is there an actual sophisticated cognitive strategy going on here?
I assure you it is absolutely the latter. The objective here, really our mission for this deep dive, is to help you move from what we call translating thoughts to direct thinking.
Okay, translating thoughts to direct thinking. Got it.
Yeah, and we are going to explore the cognitive benefits of this. We'll look at a real step-by-step method to get started, dive into the science of neuroplasticity, and eventually lay out a 30-day challenge to actually help you rewire your brain.
So everyone, buckle up. We are going on a journey from the raw mechanics of your neurons all the way to a highly practical daily habit. Let's start with section 1, the mechanics of thought.
A great place to start.
Why should we switch to English in our heads? Like, why not just think in my native language, which is comfortable, and then just translate it when I actually need to speak?
It's a completely fair question, and on the surface, it seems totally logical to stick to what you know. But the primary argument against that is efficiency.
Efficiency. Okay, unpack that a bit.
When you think in your native language and then translate, you are suffering from what linguists call the double work phenomenon.
Double work. Yeah, that sounds like something I definitely want to avoid in my life.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be paid once for doing a job twice, right?
Spot on. Think of it as this clunky 4-step process. Step 1, you have an idea in your native language. Step 2, you have to mentally dig around to find the English words for that specific idea.
Which takes time.
It takes a lot of time. Then, step 3, you have to arrange those words into the correct English order. And that order might be completely backward compared to your native grammar.
Oh, definitely. Like putting the adjective before the noun instead of after.
Exactly. And finally, step 4, you kind of internally check how it sounds before you open your mouth.
That is just a massive amount of cognitive overhead.
Yeah.
It's like trying to run brand new high-end software on a computer from the 90s.
That's a great analogy. You just get that spinning wheel of death on the screen.
Yeah, the computer's just freezing up while it tries to process everything.
And that processing time creates a lag. In computing, we call it latency, but in a real human conversation, it just feels like an awkward silence.
Totally.
Now, contrast that 4-step nightmare with the 2 steps of thinking. Step 1, the idea forms. Step 2, it forms directly in English.
Because you're skipping the translation and the arrangement steps completely.
Right. You skip them because the thought itself is born in the English structure.
Let's illustrate this with, well, a nightmare scenario we have all faced at some point. The job interview.
The classic high-pressure situation.
Right. You are sitting there, maybe sweating a bit in your suit. The interviewer looks right at you and asks that dreaded question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Now, if you are stuck in translator mode, there is an immediate pause. Your brain goes into absolute overdrive.
Because you're formulating the answer in your mother tongue first.
Yes, you think, I want to be a manager. Now, the hunt begins. Okay, what's the word for manager? Got it. What about leadership? Team. And then the grammar check kicks in.
And while you are doing all those intense internal gymnastics, the interviewer is just sitting there staring at you.
They just see a blank stare. Maybe you're saying, or oh, to buy yourself some time.
And unfortunately, that looks like hesitation. It makes it seem like you really don't know the answer to a fairly standard question.
But if you are a direct thinker,
things go completely differently.
they do. You have likely already had this internal conversation with yourself in English. The neural pathway is already there, paved and ready to go.
So you just answer immediately.
You do. You say, in 5 years, I see myself leading a team of designers at a creative agency. I really want to grow my leadership skills.
It just flows. And that projects a huge amount of confidence. And we all know that in an interview, the confidence you project is often just as important as the actual content of your answer.
Okay, so speed and confidence are the first big benefits of this mindset. But there's also something really interesting here about how we actually learn new words. We usually call this vocabulary acquisition in the field.
Right, and I feel like the traditional way we learn words is probably the worst possible way.
Oh, without a doubt. It's always lists, endless, boring lists.
Here are 50 words about the post office. Here are 50 vegetables.
Right. I do not care about the word for turnip. I am never going to use that.
This brings us to the concept of natural gaps. Most people learn vocabulary by staring at a textbook list. But your brain doesn't actually care about those words because it doesn't need them yet.
It's just raw data without a hook to hang it on.
Spot on. It's useless data. So how does thinking about your personal goals change that dynamic?
Well, when you start thinking about your own goals in English, you suddenly create a natural demand in your brain.
Let's say your big goal is to start a small business. You're walking down the street, daydreaming about it. You think to yourself, I want to be a bazaar, and you suddenly stop.
Because you realize you don't know the word for someone who starts a business.
That is the gap. You feel it immediately, and honestly, it's annoying.
That mental itch you just can't scratch.
But that annoyance is fantastic. It drives you to pull out your phone and look it up, and you find the word entrepreneur.
And because you desperately needed that word, right in that moment to finish your own internal thought, it sticks.
You will never forget it. And then you start thinking about the money aspect. You look up revenue, profit, investment.
These aren't just random words on a dusty list anymore. They are the actual building blocks of your dream. You have an emotional attachment to them.
I love that phrase, learning on demand. Now, let's pivot slightly and talk about the mindset shift. This is a bit more philosophical, but so important.
Does the language we think in actually change who we are? Because I've certainly heard people say they feel like a totally different person when they speak a different language.
There's really significant evidence out there to suggest that language deeply influences your perspective.
How so for English specifically?
English is frequently described by linguists as a very action-oriented language. The standard sentence structure, subject, verb, object, really puts the actor first and foremost.
So sentences like, I will make it happen, or I am working toward my dream.
Right. It feels very direct, very assertive. The I is taking the action.
When you internalize that specific structure, when you constantly repeat these I will statements in your mind, you're adopting a very specific kind of momentum.
You are. You are literally training yourself to view the world as an environment that you can act upon, rather than an environment where things just randomly happen to you.
It's like English becomes a mental suit of armor in a way. It makes you feel ready to take on the challenge.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it.
Okay, so we are completely sold on the why. We want that processing efficiency, the natural vocabulary retention, and the confidence. Now we need to figure out the how. That brings us to section 2, the framework.
And we really need to be careful here because the absolute biggest mistake people make at this stage is trying to do way too much, way too soon.
Right. I can't just flip a mental switch today and suddenly be thinking in fluent Shakespearean English tomorrow.
And you definitely shouldn't try. That is a one-way ticket to burnout. So step 1 is simply this. Simplicity is key. Do not start your journey by trying to compose a complex novel in your head.
So no deep philosophical debates with myself while I'm making breakfast on day 1.
Please don't. Start with what we call anchors. These are incredibly simple, atomic level sentences. Things like, I want to learn English, I want a good job, I want to be healthy.
Okay, so these act as very basic starting points. They are super easy to form so you don't get frustrated or discouraged.
They anchor the new habit into your daily routine. You can think, I want coffee while you're walking to the kitchen in the morning.
It seems almost too trivial, though.
It might seem that way, but you are establishing a vital protocol in your brain. You are teaching your brain that thought equals English.
Got it. Start incredibly small. And once you are comfortable with those tiny anchors, what's next?
Once that feels natural, you move to step 2, adding detail.
So we take that basic skeleton sentence and put some meat on the bones.
Exactly. You transition from a broad, vague wish to a much more specific target. Instead of just thinking the anchor, I want to travel, you expand it slightly.
I want to visit London next summer and practice my English with native speakers.
There you go. That is a much richer, more textured thought. You are bringing in time expressions like next summer and purpose connectors like to practice.
It creates a little mini narrative in your head.
Now, once you have that narrative, you need an actual strategy to make it happen. This brings us seamlessly to step 3, the SMART method.
Now, this is a total staple in the corporate and business world, but applying it internally in English is a massive game changer for learners.
It really is.
For those who might not be familiar with the corporate jargon, let's break the acronym down. What does SMART actually stand for?
It's an acronym where S is for specific, M stands for measurable, A is for achievable, R is for relevant, and T stands for time-bound.
Okay, let's do a really thorough deep dive example here so you can see how this works. Let's say I want to change careers. A vague standard goal would be, I want to be a software developer.
Which is nice, but it's just a wish. It's not a concrete plan.
So how do we smartify that goal and do it in English?
We construct one very comprehensive sentence. Start with the time, within 1 year. That covers the time-bound aspect.
Okay, within 1 year?
Then the specific part, I will get a job as a software developer.
Within 1 year, I will get a job as a software developer.
Then the measurable and achievable plan. By completing 3 coding projects, earning 2 certifications, and studying 2 hours every evening.
Wow. If you put that all together, within 1 year, I will get a job as a software developer by completing 3 coding projects, earning 2 certifications, and studying 2 hours every evening. That covers literally everything. It's a complete roadmap in a single sentence.
And just think about the sheer amount of grammar you are naturally practicing there.
Let's see. You have gerunds with completing, earning, studying.
You have the future tense with I will.
Yeah.
You are using prepositions correctly, like within.
It is a really high-level linguistic exercise, but it's cleverly disguised as practical life planning.
Let's try another one. Let's do one for health. Someone thinks, I want to lose weight.
Way too vague.
Try applying the framework. In 6 months, I will lose 10 kilograms by eating healthy meals and walking 30 minutes every day.
Clear, highly actionable, and again, thinking it entirely in English dramatically reinforces the personal commitment.
It binds the language to your personal growth. Now, step 4 is the one that might make you feel, well, a little funny if you try doing it in public.
Oh, we are talking about self-talk.
We absolutely have to embrace the awkwardness here. Talking to yourself, whether you do it out loud in the shower, driving alone in your car, or just silently in your head, is the ultimate rehearsal.
It's like entering sandbox mode in a video game. You can totally mess up, crash the car, and it just doesn't matter because there are no consequences.
That is the whole beauty of it. You can have a full inner conversation about your study plan for the day. You might say to yourself, okay, today I really need to study some grammar. Specifically, I struggle with the present perfect tense. So I'll review that, and then I will read a news article.
You are practicing the natural flow and rhythm of conversation, but entirely without the pressure of a native speaker standing there judging you.
And what happens if you stumble over your words in this sandbox?
You just correct yourself and keep moving. You think, wait, no, that didn't sound quite right. Let me try phrasing that again.
Which builds that internal self-monitoring skill. That skill is absolutely vital for long-term fluency.
I actually do this in the car sometimes. I just narrate my driving out loud. I am turning left at the next light. Wow, that guy in the red truck is driving way too slow. It really helps.
It absolutely helps. You are mentally mapping the English language to real-world reality in real time.
Okay, so just to recap that framework for you. Start with simple sentences, add specific detail, run them through the SMART method, and talk to yourself constantly.
That's the blueprint.
But let's look at how this actually plays out in the real world. We have some really interesting case studies lined up here. Real archetypes of people with very real goals.
Let's start with our first scenario. We'll call him Scenario A, the career climber. Let's name him Ahmed.
Okay, tell us about Ahmed.
Ahmed is a structural engineer. He's very capable, very smart, but he feels completely stuck in his current role. He really wants to leap to a big international firm.
Man, we have all been there. Hitting that invisible ceiling, feeling like you have so much more to offer, but you are just trapped in your current situation. So how does Ahmed utilize this thinking method?
Well, instead of just sitting around feeling frustrated and venting in his native language, he starts breaking down his entire escape plan in English.
He identifies the specific barriers in his way.
Right. He thinks, I need an IELTS score of 7.0. I need to get my PMP certification. I need to completely update my LinkedIn profile.
He is effectively turning this vague cloud of career stress into a highly actionable English language checklist.
And more importantly, he connects it to his deep personal why. He thinks to himself, I am doing this for my family. I will not let them down.
Wow. When he articulates that core emotional driver in English, he is emotionally bonding with the language itself.
It fundamentally changes the relationship. English stops being this annoying school subject he has to pass, and it starts being the literal lifeline to his family's future success.
That is incredibly powerful. What about our next case study? Let's look at scenario B. We'll call him Carlos, the entrepreneur.
Carlos is a passionate chef. He owns a fantastic little local restaurant, but he dreams really big. He wants to expand and start attracting international tourists.
So for Carlos, English isn't an academic exercise. It's a sheer business tool.
Exactly. His thought process is incredibly tangible and grounded. He thinks, I need to translate the dinner menu. I need to build an English website. I want to increase our monthly revenue by 30%.
Translate the menu is such a phenomenal practical goal. He literally has to learn the specific English words for his local ingredients, his unique cooking methods, everything.
It makes the vocabulary acquisition immediate and, frankly, profitable. He isn't wasting time learning random words. He is learning the exact words that will make him money.
Words like savory, wood-fired, artisan, vegan options.
Those words become his livelihood.
And finally, let's look at scenario C, the multitasker. Let's call her Priya.
Priya is a stay-at-home mom who is looking to transition back into the workforce, specifically into accounting. But she has an active toddler running around, so her free time is basically zero.
Priya represents a massive demographic of our listeners, people who simply cannot carve out 2 quiet hours at a desk to study a textbook.
So Priya's English thought process has to be all about integration.
How does she manage to do that with a toddler?
She uses what I call the gapped method. Her English thought process happens in the tiny cracks of her day. While she is cooking dinner, she is actively listening to English business podcasts.
Making use of the idle hands, busy mind time.
And she even speaks to her toddler in simple English phrases. Look at the red ball. Let's go wash our hands.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And here's the best part. She takes her online Excel refresher courses entirely in English.
I absolutely love that strategy. She is learning her hard trade skill Excel accounting while simultaneously using the target language. Talk about double duty.
She is stacking her habits. She is weaving English into the chaotic fabric of her daily life, rather than trying to force a separate, pristine study time that she knows she doesn't have.
These 3 stories, Ahmed, Carlos, and Priya, they really demonstrate that anyone can do this, regardless of their crazy schedule or what profession they're in.
It just takes a bit of creativity.
Now, I really want to pivot to section 4, the science behind the strategy, because we promised you, the listeners, some hard science to back all this up.
We certainly did. And let me be clear, this isn't just self-help theory. This is actual human biology.
Okay, the floor is yours. Prove it to me. Is there actual, measurable proof that thinking in a second language changes how your brain operates?
Let's start with a well-documented phenomenon known as the bilingual advantage. Decades of cognitive research consistently show that bilingual brains literally function differently. They show enhanced executive function.
Executive function. That sounds very official and important. What is that in plain English?
Think of executive function as your brain's air traffic control tower. It is the system that handles impulse control, focusing your attention on a specific task and seamlessly switching between different tasks.
Okay, so how does thinking in English train that control tower?
When you consciously choose to think in a second language, your brain is constantly forced to inhibit meaning, to actively hold back your dominant native language from taking over.
Oh, I see.
That constant mental lifting, that resistance, physically strengthens the brain's cognitive control centers.
So it's quite literally like a gym workout for your focus and attention span.
That is a perfect way to describe it. You are building tangible cognitive muscle. And then, moving on from that, we have the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, which we touched on briefly earlier.
Ah, yes, the idea that the language you speak shapes the thoughts you are capable of having.
It's a fascinating linguistic theory. Let's look at the agency aspect again because it's so critical. In some languages, the phrasing for an accident might literally translate to, the vase broke itself. It just happened as a matter of fate.
But in English, we demand a subject. We almost always say, he break the vase, or I broke the vase. We assign a doer to the action.
Right. And by adopting English, with its highly agency-focused grammatical structure, you might actually be training yourself to become more proactive and responsible in your daily behavior.
You are inherently taking ownership just by following the grammar rules. I broke it, therefore I will fix it.
Exactly. And then, of course, there is neuroplasticity. This is arguably the biggest buzzword in neuroscience today.
People definitely throw that word around a lot in pop psychology. But what does it actually mean for someone sitting at home trying to learn a language?
It means the physical structure of your brain is malleable. It changes its physical shape and connectivity based on the actions you repeatedly do.
Okay.
Every single time you think a thought, a specific neural pathway fires in your brain. Imagine you are standing at the edge of a field of incredibly tall, thick grass.
I'm picturing it.
The very first time you try to walk through that field, it is exhausting. You have to push the heavy grass aside, you stumble, it's slow.
That sounds like the initial painful translation phase when you're just starting out.
That's exactly what it is. It's high friction. But if you force yourself to walk that exact same path through the grass every single day, you start to tamp down the grass.
It gets a little easier each time.
It becomes a visible trail. Keep walking it, and it becomes a cleared dirt road. Keep walking it, and eventually, biologically speaking, your brain adds a substance called myelin to that specific neural pathway.
Myelin.
Yes. Myelin acts like the rubber insulation around an electrical wire. It wraps around the pathway to make the electrical signal travel significantly faster and with less energy loss. That dirt road becomes a paved, high-speed superhighway.
So the repetition of thinking in English literally paves a physical highway inside your brain.
Correct. You are not just learning, you are building massive physical infrastructure in your head.
That is mind-blowing.
And finally, let's look at self-affirmation theory. We all kind of know that positive self-talk works to boost mood and performance, but doing it in a second language can actually amplify the focus.
Really? Why is that? I would have assumed it would be much stronger and more emotional in your native language.
You'd think so, but not necessarily. Because English is not your native tongue, you cannot do the self-affirmation on autopilot.
You can't just zone out while you say it.
Right. You have to be deeply intentional with every single word you choose. That extra cognitive effort acts like a mental highlighter. It makes the underlying message stick much harder in your psyche.
That is so fascinating. It's like the sheer effort required to construct the sentence makes your brain believe the content of the sentence more deeply.
Spot on.
Okay, we are moving into section 5. Let's give you, the listener, some seriously high-powered weapons to use. These are advanced tools for cultivating the native mindset.
Because we really want you to move from just surviving in English to truly thriving and expressing your personality. The first advanced tool is utilizing idioms and expressions in your internal monologue.
Now, why idioms? Aren't they notoriously confusing for learners? Like, it's raining cats and dogs. I mean, that is just a terrifying image if you take it literally.
True. Idioms can be weird, but they are exactly what makes your thoughts feel authentic and real.
How so?
If you think like a robot, just saying, I will work hard today, it feels very sterile and clinical. But if you think to yourself, I am going to go the extra mile today, it carries a whole different weight and emotion.
Go the extra mile. Meaning doing more than is strictly expected of you. It implies you are a dedicated, hardworking person. It's a whole identity wrapped in a phrase.
Or think about the phrase, burn the midnight oil, meaning working late into the night. It evokes this great visual image of dedication and quiet focus, or the sky is the limit.
Meaning endless possibilities.
Yeah.
No ceiling to what you can achieve.
These phrases inject color, culture, and life into your internal monologue. They make you feel like you are an insider who truly gets the language, not just an outsider looking in through a textbook window.
I love that. Tool 2 on our advanced list is conditionals, specifically if-then planning. Now, this sounds a bit like logic programming for a computer.
It is, but it's a vital strategy for life. Real life is completely unpredictable. You constantly need to prepare your mind for different outcomes.
So using English to plan for the unexpected.
Right. You think, if I get the job, I will move to the city. That's the positive conditional. But more importantly, you need the negative conditional. If I fail the interview, I will learn from the experience and apply again.
That is huge for mental resilience. You are basically pre-programming your emotional bounce back.
You are actively telling your brain exactly how to handle failure before the failure even happens. You script your reaction in English so that when bad news hits, you don't panic or spiral.
You just execute the then part of the script.
Exactly.
Moving on to tool 3, the mental vision board. I am a big fan of visualization. Pro athletes do this all the time before a big game, right?
They do, but our version is visualization paired with active narration.
Walk me through how I would do that.
I want you to literally close your eyes, see your future success in vivid detail, but you have to describe every detail in English. You think, I am sitting in a spacious corner office. The view of the city skyline is amazing. I feel completely confident. I am wearing a sharp navy suit.
Oh, I see. It physically links the powerful visual emotion of success directly with the vocabulary of English. You are permanently bonding the two together in your mind.
You are. And finally, we have Tool 4, the imaginary friend conversation.
Okay, this sounds a little bit like the self-talk we talked about earlier in the framework, but it's a full-blown dialogue, right?
Yes. It's a step up. You play both roles in the conversation. You ask yourself the tough questions. So what are your goals for this year? And then you switch roles and answer, well, I plan to run a full marathon.
And then you keep it going. Oh, really? A marathon? How on earth will you train for that? I will run 3 times a week before work.
It creates that natural back and forth conversational pressure. It forces you to actively listen to your own response and then formulate a logical reply on the fly. It perfectly simulates the rhythm of a real-world chat.
And because you are both people, you can dial the difficulty up or down. You can ask yourself really tough, probing questions. Why haven't you started the project yet? What is your real excuse here?
Delivering a little tough love to yourself in English, it is highly effective.
I really like that one. But of course, as with building any new cognitive habit, there are inevitably going to be some pitfalls. We need to clearly warn people about what not to do. That brings us to section 6, common pitfalls and troubleshooting.
The absolute biggest enemy to this entire process is mistake 1, word-for-word translation. We discussed it early on, but it really bears repeating.
Do not do it.
Do not take a complex, nuanced sentence in your native language and try to just swap the words out for English ones, one by one.
Because the grammar will just completely fall apart. It'll sound like a disjointed Frankenstein sentence.
It will be an absolute mess. Instead of swapping individual words, you need to use conversational blocks or patterns.
Give me an example of a block.
Things like, I need to, I am going to, have you ever? You want to think in these larger structural chunks, not in isolated individual words.
Gotcha. Now, mistake 2 is what we call the vocabulary trap. This is when people try entirely too hard to sound incredibly smart.
Oh yes, the thesaurus abusers.
Right. They say something like, I deeply desire to ameliorate my linguistic competencies.
And absolutely nobody talks like that in real life, not even tenured university professors.
It just sounds ridiculous.
Just say, I want to get better at English. Clarity is the ultimate form of confidence. Do not try to hide your insecurities behind massive, archaic words you dug out of a dictionary.
Keep it simple and clear. Mistake 3 is a really critical one, especially for your mental health. Negative self-talk.
This is toxic in any language, but if you do it in your target language, you're associating the language with pain. Thoughts like, I am way too old for this. I will never get this grammar role. I always make embarrassing mistakes. You have to actively reframe these.
Okay, let's do some live reframing. How do we fix the thought, I always make mistakes?
You catch yourself and you change it to, mistakes help me learn and grow faster.
What about the classic, I am too old to learn a language?
You reframe it to, it is never too late to learn something new. Or better yet, I have decades of wisdom and life experience that actually helps me understand complex concepts better than a kid.
That is a much better framework. And finally, mistake 4, vague goals. The classic, I want to be successful.
It's completely meaningless. You have to define what that actually means. A much better goal is, I want to earn $60,000 a year by 2027. That is a solid target you can actually aim your efforts at.
I love the comparison here. Successful is just a vague cloud floating in the sky. $60,000 is a solid mountain. You can actually climb a mountain. You cannot climb a cloud.
That is a brilliant visual to keep in mind.
All right, listeners, you have the theory, you understand the science, and you have a toolbox full of advanced techniques. Now we have a real challenge for you to take home. Welcome to Section 7, the 30-day challenge.
We want you to commit to just 1 month of this daily practice, just 30 days, to literally rewire the neural pathways in your brain.
Let's break the challenge down week by week. Week 1 is all about the foundation. What do they do?
Keep it incredibly simple. I want you to think of just one single goal every morning in English.
Just one thought.
Just one. Today, I want to drink more water. Today, I want to finish that budget report. Write these simple goals down in a physical notebook in English. Just get your brain used to the feeling of generating the thought in the language.
Very low pressure, just dipping a toe in the water.
Yeah.
Then we move to week 2, building habits.
This is where we amp it up a little bit. Start incorporating the self-talk during your daily commute.
Narrate your drive, like I do.
Exactly. And take one of your bigger life goals and actually run it through the SMART method we discussed. Make sure it is highly specific and has a strict deadline attached to it.
Then we hit week 3, deepening the practice.
Now we bring out the big guns, the advanced tools. I want you to start visualizing potential obstacles and their solutions using the if-then conditional statements.
If it rains heavily tomorrow, I will do a home workout instead of going to the gym.
Perfect. And try to actively throw an idiom or two into your daily thoughts. Tell yourself, I am going to hit the ground running today.
And finally, week 4, lifestyle integration, the final stretch.
This is a reflective week. Review your progress. Look back at the first page of your notebook and see how far your thoughts have evolved. And here's the big task for week 4. I want you to write a detailed letter to your future self dated exactly 1 year from today.
Oh, wow.
And you must describe everything you have achieved over that year as if it has already happened.
Dear future me, I am so incredibly proud that you finally passed the certification exam and got the promotion. That is such a profoundly cool cognitive exercise. You are essentially creating a memory of a future event.
It is deeply motivating. And to support this whole 30-day journey, do you recommend a daily structure?
Yes, a very simple morning and evening routine. In the morning, right when you wake up, think, today is Monday. My goals for today are, and list 3 things.
And in the evening?
Right before bed, think, today I accomplished, and list what you got done. It literally takes maybe 2 minutes out of your day, but it beautifully bookends your entire day with English thinking.
I love it. It is highly actionable, it is cleanly structured, and it is totally doable for anyone listening.
It really is. And please remember, the goal of this challenge isn't to be grammatically perfect. The goal is forward progress. You will inevitably stumble. You will absolutely use the wrong word sometimes.
And that is completely fine. Just keep thinking. Keep the engine running.
Before we officially wrap up this deep dive, let's hit everyone with some final inspiration. We have a couple of heavy hitters in the quote department to leave you fired up and motivated.
The first one is from Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. He said, "A goal without a plan is just a wish."
Such a timeless classic. It really cuts right to the heart of what we talked about with the SMART method. And here is one of my personal favorites from Eleanor Roosevelt. The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams.
That is a beautiful sentiment to end on, and I will leave you all with this one final thought from my end. Every single expert out there was once just a confused beginner. Your first step to becoming an expert starts right now.
So here's our final call to action for you. Do not just let this end, close the app, and go right back to your normal routine.
Take action immediately.
Start today. Take 60 seconds right now, literally pause the audio if you have to, and think of one single goal in English. Say it clearly in your head, and truly believe it.
Just one thought. Start the mental engine. You now have all the tools you need. You just need to actually pick them up and use them.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. It has been an absolute blast unpacking all of this with you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel.
Keep thinking, and we will catch you next time.